Chinelo was the kind of girl whose life had been shaped by hardship but held together by faith. She grew up in a small village in Nigeria, in a family that struggled to make ends meet. Her parents were poor, but they never let go of their devotion to God. They believed prayers could change anything, even their circumstances. Chinelo was their only daughter, a gentle girl with bright eyes and a heart full of dreams. Her father often reminded her that no matter how hard life seemed, she was destined for something bigger. Those words stayed with her, carrying her through days of hunger and nights of tears. One evening, while browsing Facebook on a borrowed phone, a message popped up. It was from a man named Emeka. He lived abroad, but he was from her village. At first, Chinelo was hesitant. Men had deceived many girls before, and she didn't want to be one of them. But Emeka's words were warm, respectful, and full of promises that touched her heart. Within weeks, their conversations grew into something deeper. He told her he wanted to marry her. At first, she laughed it off. They barely knew each other, but Emeka was persistent. He told her he had been searching for a woman like her, someone simple, God-fearing, and loyal. Chinelo shared this with her parents, and to her surprise, they encouraged her to accept him. "He is from our land," her father said. "God may have sent him to change your life." Their words gave her courage. Soon, Emeka sent money for the traditional marriage rite. His relatives came to the village to pay her bride price. Chinelo felt overwhelmed. Everything was happening so fast. Yet, seeing her parents' smiles, she convinced herself it was God's plan. But not everyone was happy. Emeka's cousin put Chinelo aside one afternoon and whispered, "Don't marry him. You don't know what you're walking into. You will regret this." Chinelo's heart raced. But before she could ask more, Emeka's sister interrupted. With a smile, she assured Chinelo, "Don't mind him. He's jealous. My brother truly loves you." Caught between two voices, Chinelo chose to believe the sister. After all, love was about trust, and Emeka had done nothing but prove his seriousness. When the bride price was finally paid, Chinelo felt her life shifting. For the first time, she saw a door opening out of poverty. Emeka called her that night, his voice calm yet firm. "My love, I am processing the papers. Soon you will join me abroad. You just have to meet the man handling everything in Cotonou. I will send you his number." Chinelo's heart leaped. The promise of a new life was no longer a dream. It was almost real. She held onto her parents tightly that night, whispering silent prayers of thanks. But little did she know, the journey she was about to take would not lead her to the life she imagined. Instead, it would drag her into the darkness she could never have foreseen. And as the night deepened in her village, a single question echoed in the shadows. Who truly was the man she had just married? A savior, or the beginning of her destruction? Chinelo's journey to Cotonou began with excitement. She had never left Nigeria before, and now the promise of traveling abroad stirred her heart with both hope and fear. Her parents prayed with her that morning, laying their hands on her head and committing her into God's hands. Her mother wept as she whispered, "My daughter, this road will lead you to greatness. Don't forget where you came from." Chinelo carried those words with her as she boarded the bus that would take her south. The air was hot and heavy, the road long and unfamiliar. Yet in her heart, there was joy. Soon she would meet the man handling her travel papers, the man Emeka trusted. Her phone buzzed, and she saw a message from Emeka. "My love, his name is Ahmed. He works with the American embassy in Cotonou. He will process everything for you. Trust him as you trust me." Chinelo read the message over and over, her heart steadying itself. If Emeka trusted Ahmed, then she had no reason to fear. She closed her eyes and imagined herself boarding a plane, flying high above the clouds, leaving poverty behind forever. Hours later, the bus crossed into Benin Republic. The streets of Cotonou were louder, busier, and filled with faces she didn't know. Chinelo held her small bag tightly as she stepped down, scanning the crowd. That was when she saw him, Ahmed. He was tall, with sharp eyes that seemed to study her from head to toe. Dressed neatly, Ahmed carried an air of authority that made her feel both safe and uneasy. He introduced himself with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You must be Chinelo," he said smoothly. "Emeka told me everything about you. Come, let's go. Your journey is just beginning." Chinelo followed, her heart pounding. Ahmed walked with the confidence of someone who knew the city well. He spoke quickly, telling her about the visa process, the embassy schedules, and the things she needed to know. His words carried weight, and Chinelo tried her best to understand. But then, there was something unsettling. His tone changed when no one else was listening. His eyes lingered on her longer than necessary. At one point, as they crossed the busy street, he leaned closer and whispered, "You are very beautiful. Emeka is lucky." Chinelo forced a smile, brushing it aside. Maybe he was just being kind. Night came quickly in Cotonou. The air smelled of roasted food and exhaust fumes. Ahmed led her into a dimly lit house on the edge of town. "You will stay here tonight," he said. "Tomorrow, we begin your processing." Chinelo sat quietly on the bed, holding her bag like a shield. She replayed her mother's prayer in her mind, clinging to them like a lifeline. She told herself she was safe, that soon she would call her parents with good news. But outside the window, the city seemed to whisper a different story. Shadows moved, voices rose, and a storm was building, one she could not yet see. And as the door clicked shut behind Ahmed, Chinelo's heart froze. Was this truly the path to her dreams, or the first step into the nightmare she could never escape? The first night in Ahmed's house was restless. Chinelo lay awake on the thin mattress, staring at the cracked ceiling while mosquitoes whined in the darkness. Every creak of the floor, every whisper of wind made her shiver. She told herself this was just part of the process, that soon she would be holding a visa in her hands. Yet deep inside, something didn't feel right. By morning, Ahmed appeared with a plate of food and a forced smile. "Eat. You will need strength. Today, we start the real journey." His words were smooth, but his eyes were sharp, like a hunter watching prey. Chinelo forced herself to eat, though her stomach twisted with unease. Later, Ahmed took her phone. "Security reasons," he explained casually. "We don't want embassy officials tracking anything." Chinelo hesitated but obeyed. After all, wasn't he the one who held the key to her future? The hours that followed felt like chains tightening around her. Ahmed made constant demands. "Sit here, stay quiet, follow me." At first it seemed harmless, but soon his tone grew heavier. He told her about the cost of the papers, saying money alone wasn't enough. Sometimes, he said slowly, "You have to give more than money. If you want to travel, you must prove how serious you are." Chinelo froze. She had heard stories of girls being exploited, but never imagined she could be one of them. With trembling hands, she whispered, "No, please, I am a married woman. My husband." Ahmed's laughter cut her off. It was a cruel sound, echoing through the room. "Your husband? The one who sent you to me? My dear, he knows everything. He trusts me with you. And if you want your papers, you will do exactly as I say." The room spun. Chinelo's heart shattered at those words. Could it be true? Did my husband really send me here knowing this was what awaited me? She begged, pleaded with Ahmed to let her go back. But his eyes grew colder. "There is no going back," he said firmly. "If you refuse, you will return to your village empty-handed, disgraced and mocked. Is that what you want?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. She thought of her parents, of their smiles when the bride price was paid. She thought of her father selling a portion of his land for her new life. How could she go back and face them with failure? As the sun dipped low, Ahmed leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Think about it tonight. Tomorrow, I will ask again. And remember, your husband is waiting for news. Don't disappoint him." That night, Chinelo crawled into herself, shaking with tears. The walls felt like they were closing in, and her dreams of a new life were fading into ashes. She prayed silently, asking God why he had led her here. But as the moon rose high above Cotonou, Ahmed picked up her phone. With a wicked smile, snapped the first picture that would soon shatter her world. What did he intend to do with it? The next morning, the air in Ahmed's house was heavy, almost choking. Chinelo sat quietly, her hands folded tightly on her lap, her face pale with dread. She had prayed through the night, hoping that somehow God would intervene, that Ahmed's threats were just empty words. But as the door opened and he walked in, her worst fears became real. Ahmed carried himself with confidence, his eyes dark and determined. He locked the door behind him and leaned against it. "Have you thought about what I said?" His voice was low, but commanding. Chinelo's heart pounded. "Please, I can't. I'm a married woman. I've never been with anyone before my husband. I beg you in the name of God." Her words barely left her lips before Ahmed's expression hardened. He moved closer, his presence suffocating. "Your husband knows," he whispered. "In fact, he told me to make sure you're serious. You think you're here by mistake? You belong to us now." The world tilted around her. She shook her head violently, tears flooding her eyes. No, this is not true. Emeka loves me." Ahmed's cruel laughter pierced the room. "Love? He sold you to me. And now, whether you like it or not, you will give me what I want." Chinelo tried to run, but Ahmed was stronger. She fought, kicked, screamed until her voice broke, but there was no one to hear. The struggle ended with a silence that crushed her soul. In that dark moment, her innocence was torn from her, her virginity stolen by force, her dignity shattered. Afterward, she lay coiled on the mattress, her body trembling, her spirit broken. Ahmed stood above her, adjusting his clothes, his face cold and unfailing. "This is the price of your journey," he said sharply. "From now on, you will do as I command. If not, the world will know what happened here." He held up her phone, and the glow of the screen reflecting in his eyes. He had captured their vile encounter in pictures and video. Chinelo gasped, horror flooding her veins. Please don't." Ahmed snarled. "Then obey me, or I will send everything to your husband, to your parents, to your village. They will see what you've become." Her chest heaved with sob as the weight of her reality sank in. Not only was she broken, but now her silence was chained to blackmail. She could not cry out. She could not fight back. She was trapped in a prison without walls. That night, in the darkness of that room, Chinelo whispered into the void, her voice trembling, "God, where are you? Why have you forsaken me?" But even as her tears soaked the thin mattress, Ahmed was already sending something to Emeka. an intimate image of Chinelo, proof of what had been done. What would her husband say when he saw it? Would he defend her or condemn her? The days that followed were a blur of pain and despair. Chinelo was no longer the bright-eyed bride who left her village with dreams of flying abroad. She was now a prisoner, her every move dictated by Ahmed. Each time she resisted, he reminded her of the pictures, of the videos. He told her that one click could destroy her name forever. One morning, Ahmed handed her phone back. Just for a few minutes, her phone screen lit up with a message from Emeka. Her heart leaped. Maybe he would save her. Maybe he would tell her to run. But the words she read froze her blood. Do whatever Ahmed tells you. Don't spoil this chance. If you try to disobey him, you will have yourself to blame. The phone slipped from her hands. So it was true. The man she had trusted, the man she had called husband, had given her away. Back in the village, her parents waited anxiously for updates. Emeka kept calling them, assuring them that everything was fine, that the process was ongoing. But then came another request. Papa, I need more funds, Emeka said. The embassy demands extra charges, and my account here is frozen. If you don't act fast, Chinelo may lose this opportunity. Chinelo's father, a man already worn down by poverty, made a heartbreaking decision. He sold part of his ancestral land, the only inheritance meant to sustain his family. Just to raise the money, he pressed the cash into the hands of Emeka's relatives, saying, "Take it to my son-in-law. Let my daughter's future be secured." Meanwhile, Chinelo's suffering grew heavier. Ahmed transported her from one hidden place to another, deeper into the jungles, further from any chance of rescue. She crossed rivers on shaky wooden boats, stumbled through thick forests where even the trees seemed to whisper hopelessness. She was given little food, treated like cargo, guarded like a prisoner. At night, Ahmed would sneer at her brokenness. "Your parents think you are on your way to America. If only they knew you were nothing but a slave in my hands." His laughter tore at her soul. When Chinelo thought she had no more tears left, the final blow came. One evening, Ahmed allowed her to call Emeka again. Her voice cracked with desperation. "My husband, please, take me away from here. I can't endure anymore." But Emeka's voice was like a blade, cold and merciless. "Don't ever call me your husband again. I can't marry a woman who sleeps around. Do you think I don't know what you've been doing with Ahmed? You are a disgrace. You have destroyed yourself." The phone line went dead, but the words kept stabbing her chest. Betrayed by the man she loved, abandoned by the one she trusted most, Chinelo's world collapsed. Even her parents, she feared, would never believe her truth. That night, as Ahmed and his men drank and laughed around the fire, Chinelo sat in the shadows, her body trembling with rage and despair. She looked at the dark forest, stretching beyond the camp. And for the first time since her nightmare began, a thought gripped her heart like fire. Escape. But could she outrun the men who owned her faith? The night was darker than any Chinelo had ever known. The forest stretched wide and endless, alive with the cries of unseen creatures. Ahmed and his men had drunk themselves into a stupor, their laughter turning into snores around the dying fire. Chinelo sat apart, her eyes fixed on the wilderness. Her heart pounded against her chest. The word echoed in her mind: escape. Every step felt like a gamble with death, but staying meant certain destruction. She rose slowly, her feet bare against the cold earth. She clutched her thin wrapper tightly around her trembling body and moved into the shadows, every rustle sounding like thunder in her ears. Branches wiped against her skin as she ran. Her breath raged, her heart beating louder than the forest itself. She didn't know where the path led, only that it had to lead her away. Behind her, one of the guards stared, muttering in his sleep. Chinelo froze, pressing herself against a tree, praying the shadows would cover her. When the snores resumed, she darted deeper into the wilderness. Hours seemed to pass. Her legs ached, her stomach burned with hunger, but fear pushed her further. Suddenly, she stumbled upon a wide river, the moonlight shimmering faintly on its surface. The wooden bridge across it was nothing more than ropes tied together with planks hanging loosely. The water below roared angrily, swollen with the rains. Chinelo hesitated, tears filling her eyes. But then she heard it, the faint shout of men in the distance. They had discovered her escape. With trembling hands, she stepped into the bridge, each plank groaned under her weight, swaying dangerously. Halfway through, one of the ropes snapped, nearly throwing her into the raging water. She screamed, clutching the ropes tightly, her knuckles white. "God, please," she sobbed, inching forward, one painful step at a time. At last, she made it across, collapsing on the moody ground, her chest heaving. She pushed herself up and ran again, through thickets that tore at her skin, across uneven rocks that caught her feet. Then suddenly, she stopped, her breath caught in her throat. There in the clearing stood a massive bear. Its dark eyes glowed in the moonlight, fixed on her trembling form. The beast didn't move at first, it only stared, its heavy breath misting in the night air. Chinelo froze, every bone in her body locked in terror. The bear took a slow step forward. Chinelo shut her eyes, whispering a desperate prayer. Her legs weakened beneath her. But then, to her shock, the beast stopped. For what felt like an eternity, it studied her silently. Then, with a snort, it turned and lumbered back into the trees. Her knees buckled. Relief and fear flooded her all at once. She staggered onward until she reached another riverbank. This one, calmer, glistening under the moon. Her body gave way, too quick to carry her further. And as the river whispered against its shore, Chinelo collapsed, unconscious, her fate hanging in the balance. Would she ever rise again? Or would the forest claim her as its own? When Chinelo woke, her body was stiff, her lips cracked, and her clothes soaked with dew. The sun had just risen, painting the riverbank in a golden light. For a moment, she thought it was a dream, that she was still in her village with her parents, calling her for morning prayers. But the stench of mud, the ache in her bones, and the scars on her skin reminded her it was real. She had escaped. With strength she didn't know she still had, Chinelo staggered to her feet. Each step felt like her body was breaking. But the fire in her soul carried her forward. She passed small farms, distant halts, until finally, after what felt like days, she reached a main road. A kind stranger, shocked at her battered state, gave her water and pointed her towards a transport that would take her back home. When Chinelo returned to her village, her parents were happy. Their faces were lit with joy. They embraced her, whispering prayers of thanks. But soon, whispers began to spread. Her neighbors stared. Some pointed. Her father asked about Emeka. But before she could speak, News had already reached them. Emeka had poisoned her image. He told everyone that Chinelo was unfaithful, that she had willingly lain with a man who was supposed to help her. She's loose. His voice had echoed across the village through gossip. I cannot marry a woman like her. She has disgraced us all. Her parents' joy faded into shame. Her father, who had sowed land for her future, could not lift his head among his kinsmen. Her mother wept behind closed doors, refusing to answer the mocking tongues of neighbors. And Chinelo, she carried the heaviest burden of all. Ahmed still had her pictures and videos. The thought of them flying across social media like wildfire was enough to silence her forever. Even when she tried to explain, nobody believed her. Not her friends, not her community, not even her family. To them, she was no longer the innocent bride, but the girl who had soiled her name before her marriage even began. Alone in her room, Chinelo stared at the words that once gave her comfort. The laughter of children outside, the sound of women pounding yam, the bell from the nearby church. They all felt distant, like echoes from another life. She thought of the river she had collapsed beside, of the bear that had spared her, of the forest that had tried to swallow her whole. She had survived all of that, only to return home and face another kind of death. That night, she stood beneath the moonlight, her tears falling silently on the earth. Her voice broke as she whispered, God, why did you bring me back? To suffer more shame or to rise again? And there, at the crossroad of despair and survival, Chinelo's faith trembled in the balance. Would she surrender to the weight of her scars, or rise from them to build a life stronger than her pain? Chinelo's story is not just hers. It is the story of many. A story of blind trust, of promises that glittered like gold but led only to chains. She journeyed through deserts, rivers, and forests. She escaped the hands of death itself. Yet when she returned home, it was her own people who became the final prison. How often do we judge without listening? How many Chinelos walk among us, carrying scars we cannot see, silenced because no one will believe their truths. Her husband sold her dreams for his greed. Her traffickers stole her innocence. Her village stole her voice. Yet, she breathed. Still, she stands at a crossroad to give up or to rise again. And that, my friends, is the lesson of Chinelo's story. Sometimes, survival itself is the loudest victory. Stay tuned, for the journey of Chinelo is just beginning. Hello guys, this is Essy'sFolktale. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, like and share, because many more stories are waiting to hear. See you on our next episode. Bye.